1945, 10:47 a.m. Winston Churchill sat inside his command aircraft, moments from landing in Germany, expecting to witness a carefully staged triumph of British military power. Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery's Operation Plunder, the long-awaited, meticulously prepared Rhine crossing, was about to begin. It was meant to be Britain's moment, proof that British professionalism, discipline, and planning still define modern warfare. Then the radio crackled and 4 words shattered that illusion. Patton crossed last night. Not today. Not with Montgomery's 1,000 artillery guns, airborne landings, and months of coordination. Last night, quietly, with assault boats and a small, aggressive force Patton would later describe as a band of angry Pennsylvanians. In a single sentence, American speed had eclipsed British ceremony. Within minutes, Montgomery sent Churchill an urgent message, cold and precise. American insubordination has undermined Allied strategy. Patton must be relieved immediately. To understand why this moment mattered so deeply, you must understand what Montgomery had been promised. On January 12, 1945, Churchill personally assured him that Operation Plunder would be the centerpiece of the Allied victory in Europe. Not American improvisation, British professionalism. Montgomery spent 2 months planning the crossing. Over 1 million men, tens of thousands of vehicles, thousands of artillery pieces, smoke screens, airborne divisions, and the largest river crossing operation since Normandy. War correspondents were invited. Photographers were positioned. Churchill himself had drafted the communique praising British excellence, ready to be released the moment Montgomery's forces secured the eastern bank. But George Patton had other ideas. On March 22nd at 10:37 p.m., Patton called Eisenhower from Luxembourg. His tone was casual. "Ike, quick update. Third Army crossed the Rhine at Oppenheim, used assault boats, minimal casualties. Thought you'd want to know." Eisenhower immediately understood the political disaster that had just occurred. "George, please tell me you coordinated this with Montgomery." Patton's reply was pure Patton. "Monty's got his own crossing tomorrow. Didn't want to bother him." Eisenhower hung up and turned to his chief of staff. "Get me Churchill. George just created the biggest diplomatic crisis of the war." By 6:18 the next morning, Montgomery received confirmation that American forces had crossed the Rhine 12 hours before Operation Plunder was scheduled to begin. He did not shout. Witnesses said he went cold. Patton has deliberately sabotaged Allied strategy to satisfy his ego. This is insubordination at the strategic level. I want him relieved and sent home today. When his staff pointed out the success of the crossing, Montgomery cut them off. Success is irrelevant. Discipline is paramount. Without it, we don't have a coalition. We have chaos. He immediately drafted his demand to Churchill. Churchill read the message 3 times aboard his aircraft. "What are the facts?" he asked. Patton had crossed. Casualties were light. The bridgehead was secure. No permission, no coordination. Churchill stared out the window at Germany below. Montgomery was his chosen commander, the embodiment of British military tradition. But Patton had just crossed Hitler's last natural barrier before Montgomery could even begin. The political mathematics were unforgiving. Support Montgomery and Churchill would be demanding the firing of an American general for succeeding too quickly. Support Patton, and British prestige would be publicly eclipsed. When Churchill landed, Montgomery was waiting on the tarmac, rigid and formal. "Prime Minister, thank you for coming to witness Operation Plunder," Churchill responded calmly. "Field Marshal, I received your message. Walk with me." Montgomery immediately pressed his case. Patton must be relieved. Churchill stopped him with a raised hand. "One question, Bernard. If Patton had asked permission to cross last night, what would you have said?" Montgomery answered without hesitation. "I would have denied it." Churchill paused. "Then tell me, is this about strategy or pride?" Montgomery spoke of discipline. Churchill spoke of reality. "Patton didn't make you look reckless, Bernard. He made you look slow." The words hung in the cold air. Churchill reminded him of the truth both men understood, but rarely admitted. The war was ending. Germany was collapsing. Every day spent preparing was another day the Soviets advanced west. Patton understood that speed now mattered more than perfection. Montgomery asked the question he already knew the answer to. "So you're choosing him over me?" Churchill replied quietly. "I'm choosing to end this war faster." Later that day, Churchill sent his decision to Eisenhower. He declined to support Montgomery's demand. Patton's operation, while uncoordinated, was successful in advanced Allied objectives. No action would be taken. In a handwritten note, Churchill added, "Keep Patton moving. We can't match his speed, but we can't afford to lose it either." That evening, alone with his physician, Churchill admitted what he had avoided for years. Britain was no longer the senior military power in the alliance. America was. They moved faster. They accepted risk. And in modern warfare, speed now outweighed tradition. "Pride doesn't win wars," Churchill said. "Speed does." Montgomery wanted Patton punished for breaking the rules. Churchill understood something harsher. Patton had exposed the future, a future where results mattered more than ceremony, where the fastest army set the pace, and where Britain was no longer leading, but following. Churchill chose speed. He chose results. And in doing so, he accepted a truth the empire had long resisted. The war would be won not by those who planned the most perfectly, but by those who moved first. The war would be won not by those who planned the most perfectly, but by those who moved first. And that realization marked a turning point not just in the campaign against Germany, but in the balance of power inside the Allied alliance itself. From that day forward, no one in senior command could pretend that British methods still set the tempo of the war. The Americans did. Their generals took risks Britain no longer could afford, and more importantly, those risks kept paying off. Patton's Rhine crossing was not an isolated act of defiance. It was proof that the character of modern warfare had changed, and Britain had not changed with it fast enough. Operation Plunder went forward as planned. The artillery thundered, airborne troops descended, engineers threw bridges across the Rhine with textbook precision. It was, by every professional standard, a success, but it was also anticlimactic. The enemy had already been psychologically broken by Patton's sudden appearance on the eastern bank. German commanders, already short on fuel, men, and time, now faced a reality they could not reverse. The Rhine had been crossed, and it had been crossed before they were ready. The symbolic power of Montgomery's operation was diminished the moment Patton proved it could be done faster. Within Allied headquarters, the damage was quieter but more enduring. Montgomery never forgot the moment Churchill chose not to defend him. Their relationship, once close, hardened into formality. Trust was replaced by caution. British chiefs of staff warned Churchill that failing to discipline Patton undermined command authority. Churchill listened, then replied with brutal honesty. "Authority that cannot be enforced is not authority at all." Demanding Patton's removal would only expose Britain's declining leverage, not restore it. Across the Atlantic, the message was received clearly. American commanders understood that results now carried more weight than protocol. Patton, in particular, drew his own conclusion. The alliance would tolerate his recklessness as long as it delivered victories. And so he continued to move, fast, aggressive, relentless, driving deeper into Germany while the enemy struggled to reorganize. Every mile gained shortened the war. Every day saved meant fewer lives lost. For Churchill, the decision haunted him long after the guns fell silent. In private conversations and later writings, he acknowledged what he could not say openly in 1945. Britain had won the war, but it had lost something else along the way: its unquestioned position as the world's leading military power. That role had passed to America, not through arrogance or politics, but through speed, scale, and an unforgiving willingness to act first and explain later. Patton's crossing of the Rhine did not end the war by itself, but it revealed who would shape the post-war world. It showed that future conflicts would not be decided by who planned longest or prepared most carefully, but by who could move fastest under uncertainty. It was an uncomfortable lesson for an empire built on tradition and order. Montgomery wanted Patton punished for breaking the rules. Churchill understood that Patton had exposed a deeper truth. The rules themselves had changed. In modern warfare, hesitation was more dangerous than error, and momentum mattered more than perfection. Churchill chose speed. He chose results. And in doing so, he accepted the end of one era and the beginning of another. An era where Britain would no longer lead the charge, but follow those who could move faster than history itself.